and we have to start with Maryland and Colorado State, of course. There have been a couple of good games in the tournament so far. The first four actually gave us probably two of the three or four best ones between St. Francis, Alabama State, and then Texas and Xavier. But the best game did have the best ending. Both of these things were true at the same point. Maryland 72, Colorado State 71. I've already hogged up plenty of the mic here. I've got some goodies and stats, but I am sending it right back over to you, Cobb. Your thoughts on the game, your reaction. Obviously, we got to get to the travel call that wasn't, but take it wherever you want. I'm just overly joyed that we got a bona fide, true ball is in the air, horn is off, buzzer beater. Your thoughts on what went down in Seattle on Sunday night?
Well, you tipped your hand a little bit, Matt. You think it was a travel, don't you?
I do think it was a travel, but I will get to whether or not it should have been called that and everything surrounding that, because that quickly became the discussion point. But I do think that by the book, yes, it absolutely was a travel. You're not allowed to gather the NBA interpretation of what's allowed versus the college one. There is a differentiation in the rule.
Matt, it's one of those like, what color is the dress sort of situations where some people are going to see it one way. Other people are going to see it another way. Nobody's going to agree. People are going to be mad about it, right? So could they have called a travel? Yeah, absolutely. It clearly looks like he took 3 steps. Am I also simultaneously glad that they didn't decide the game on a whistle? Yeah, I am. But if they had, man, how different is the narrative tonight? We're trying to cram Colorado State into Cinderella's slippers right now if they called travel on Derek Queen. And we're not having this discussion about first Sweet 16 with no mid majors, right? So it's crazy how much the national narrative hinges on one call, not to mention the fates of both Maryland and Colorado State. So yeah, could they have called a travel? Absolutely. If you want to get into the minutia of like what Gene Steratore had to say, and like you talked to some high level officials, did you not, who had some input on this? You know, we can get into that. Like, I think that's the story of tonight, is that buzzer beater won and the controversial call that sort of wasn't made.
Well, okay, we will get into that, but first I want to celebrate. I mean, this is just the tournament, especially with so much chalk moving on. And I know by nature of the result here, you have the favorite team from the power conference moving on. The tournament did need something like this. We just did not have a lot of games with a lot of tension for the better part of 2 hours. This felt like a first weekend void of more of that than almost any tournament I can remember in the past decade. So to get this, and not just to get it, I mean, Maryland's up 4 with about a minute to go, and Jalen Lake shot before the shot, hits a cozy little 17-footer from the wing, ties the game. CSU led for a lot of the early part of it, and then the play drawn up. Everyone knows it's going to Clifford, and it's a beautiful skip pass through a little bit of traffic. Queen's got they're late on the recovery, but Queen's got his arm stretched out on Lake, and that's borderline NBA range triple, and it cashes. And I'm obviously coming to you. If you're watching, I'm in my typical CBS Sports studio podcast booth here. I was in the studio all night, and so I was downstairs watching. We got this gorgeous, like, huge HD wall, and I'm losing it. It was incredible to see that shot go in. Jalen Lake, he's wet, amazing stuff. And that would have been good enough for me, period, right? But then you get this moment with a player like Derek Queen and with a team like Maryland. And if folks had forgotten, and Willard did allude to this immediately on the floor, Andy Katz, my guy, AK, you know it. I'm going to text you as well on my ride home. You did a great job post-game with Willard and that crew. That was really good stuff, him and Queen. But Maryland had been the victim 4 times this season. Its 4 most recent losses at the Horn, against Michigan in the Big Ten tourney, the prayer from beyond half court against Michigan State back in late February, the weird loss against Ohio State on the road, and then I don't want to call it devastating, but you lose to a Northwestern team that doesn't go to the tournament. That was back in mid-January. They lost that one. Maryland hadn't lost a game this season by more than 6 points, and it finally had one go its way, and it was Queen, the star freshman, one of the best freshmen. And I mean, at this point, he's been a top 3, top 4 at worst freshman in the country. They put the ball in his hands. When I did the story on Queen earlier this year, I had some stuff in there about how Queen is not afraid to speak his mind, be honest, and not have any kind of ego with his coach. And Willard is the exact same way. They have a very unusual coach-freshman dynamic. And there was a time earlier this season in Brooklyn, they were playing he told me that might have been Nova they were playing. I can't remember where he said they were playing. They had a game earlier this season, and Queen made a bad play. Willard immediately yanked him out and said, what the bleep was that pass? And he said, you would have loved that bleep and pass if because it was an alley-oop attempt if it didn't go in. And Willard's whole point to me was he is not afraid to talk to me like guys who have known me for 25 years talk to me. And flash forward to Willard in the timeout, and Derek Queen says a phrase that may well be etched inside the Xfinity Center or outside of it by the end of the week. Something along the lines of, just give me the mother bleeping ball. He takes the ball, tough shot, off leg, Ethan Morton, arm stretched out. It goes in. It's a kiss. I mean, that is an all-time March Madness highlight. And Maryland now has had buzzer beaters in its history in the tournament from Len Bias, from Drew Nicholas, UNCW, hang an arm, Cash, and now Derek Queen. So yes, we can get into the traveling stuff just a little bit, but to me, I'm a fan of, it looks cool as hell, so let it stand. And that is in any kind of sport. It looks cool as hell. It was close enough. I'm more than okay with the fact that the travel wasn't called. And I will say, from experiencing this kind of moment, like, it happened. I sent the tweet out. I was on the TV desk and enjoying all that. But man, oh man, a message to everyone listening and watching, and most people doing this already live this way. Do not experience for the like, social media can be a very fun way to experience these huge, big sports moments. It really can. It's enhanced in many, many ways. But the amount of, this is awful, he traveled, where's the call, versus shut the hell up, it doesn't matter, that's not a travel. A lot of that was out there, and I closed Twitter for a little bit because I didn't find that to be enhancing my March Madness viewing experience there. That being said, I did reach out to 2 officiating sources, and they both said, no, it's a travel. It's definitely travel. One of them said in real time, he was like, hell of a shot. But I turned to my wife and I said, he traveled. And it wasn't called. It is a close call. Gene Steratore went on CBS and explained why it could be interpreted as a non-travel there. So yeah, we get a little bit of controversy, but I got no issue with it overall. It doesn't burn me up that the travel wasn't called. I think it was one. It is a close one. We get the March Madness epic moment. I'm willing to trade it. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so big time that we get a freshman dancing on to the second weekend, because a lot of our one and done freshmen, they bowed out this first weekend. So of course you still have Cooper Flagg in the dance, Yegor Demon, right, at BYU. But it was nice to see Derek Queen marching on. And how about just the fact that his teammates, his coach, when he comes to them in that huddle and says, give me the ball, right? They're down with that, right? Like, you got Rodney Rice, yes, Jacoby Gillespie, Julian Reese, like a lot of veteran players on that team, part of that Crab Five. And they're rocking with Derek Queen with the game on the line, and he delivered. So that was cool. But, man, I just didn't totally buy the explanation from Steratore, who was great, by the way. I mean, the dude has a total marathon weekend. Again, it's like it's the dress. You can see it whatever way you want to see it, right? But the idea that it's not a third step because he's only got the ball in one hand. I mean, how often you saw Queen do it? He tucks the ball under his shoulder like a football running back. But we're supposed to believe that when you do that, the steps don't count because you haven't gathered. I don't know. I just didn't totally buy the explanation. Again, I love the ending. I'm glad the referees didn't decide it. But if I'm a Colorado State fan, man, I'm irate. I'm saying I just got robbed of this would have been their first Sweet 16 trip in the modern era. Would have been huge for the Mountain West, right? As a league. I mean, that's the other side of this, is that there's a call that could have been made that wasn't made, and a team's dreams are dashed as a result.
Yeah, if I was at home with my board, I'd be hitting the Eagles. 1969. That's the last time Colorado State made what was not called then the Sweet 16, but made it that far with only 16 teams remaining. Shouts to the great Debo, who's subbing in for producing tonight. Not has had a long weekend, maybe a little bit under the weather. He's running it. He tells me we have Willard and Katz. Let's hear it. This is Kevin Willard with Andy Katz after Maryland won the game. Go ahead, cue it up.
Well, Kevin, I covered a couple of those buzzer beaters. Northwestern, Michigan State. What did you just tell me? Maybe without, one of the words.
I think we were finally due for us to have one. I think our last 4 losses have all been buzzer beaters. When Lake shot that shot, I was like, man, that's going in. And I'm like, but we were due to get one. So proud of my team, Colorado State.
You called timeout. You got the best player on the floor, the freshman, who you've said from day one is one of the best players in the country. What did you call?
You know what? I asked everybody. I said, who wants the ball? And he said, give me the MF ball. And I said, all right, you're getting it. And I said, don't mess around. go after it and do it, and I give him a lot of credit, man. The big dog came up and threw.
That's good stuff. And by the way, there's this like increasing trend this season where a coach or a player is doing the post game and the entire team goes. And I love it. I saw it in person with Arkansas on Saturday after they beat St. John's. I'm loving that. I'm loving talking to the players going into halftime, coming out of it. Just really, really cool stuff that is up to the television presentation and production. I'm good with it across the board. And that was really, really, really fun stuff. I've got a couple notes here on this game. The Crab 5 scored 70 of Maryland's 72 points in this game. They are averaging 69 points. Nice in the tournament. That's also what they're averaging for the season. That's the most of any team starters in all of Division I. This was the first game-winning buzzer beater in the tournament since Lamont Butler in 2023 in the national semis. But it was, how about this nugget? It was the first buzzer beater. And there's been a million things going tonight, but I think this is correct. I've had, being on TV and trying to do the pod and all this. I'm pretty sure that this was the first buzzer beater in which the team that won was down a point when the ball was in the air and then won the game when the ball went in, since Loyola Chicago did this 7 years ago in the second round to Tennessee. Dante Ingram, I think, hit that shot. So that's the last time we actually had a true do or die ball is in the air. I believe that is the case there, because I want to say Butler hit his and the game was tied when that happened. We've had some since then, but in the tournament specifically, Maryland had not a single turnover in the final 18 minutes and 57 seconds of the second half. If you can play a tournament game without a deep bench and not have one giveaway in the final 19 minutes, that's massive. That is absolutely massive. A shout to Nick Clifford, Colorado State's stud, who when we vote on our All-Americans pretty much a week from now, Cobb, he's going to be on my third team. 681 points for the Rams. That is a school record. And great job out of him. Great job out of Nico Medved's team. Super, super impressive. I love the tournament for stuff like this. This was a ton of fun. Any closing thoughts on this game before we get to the rest of what happened on Sunday?
No, I just realized I've been in person for 2 of the 5 or 6 most recent NCAA tournament buzzer beaters. I was covering Tennessee as a beat writer when Loyola Chicago won that game over the Vols in, it was 18, 17, I can't remember. And then I was there in the Final Four 2 years ago for Lamont Butler's shot. And how about the fact that Lamont Butler is still playing college basketball and doing that at a very high level? That's one of my other big takeaways that I'm sure we'll get to here. But yeah, it was great. It was great to have that. We needed it. The first three days of this NCAA tournament were good. But there was not the drama. There was not the intrigue. There was not the crazy dramatic endings, right? And so it was a little bit of a downer from that perspective. And Maryland and Derek Queen delivered, not just with the moment, but then with how they handled it afterward. Kevin Willard's interview with Katz is gold. So shout out to the Terps, man. That was fun.
Thanks for folks correcting me in real time. Butler's shot, they were losing at the time when he hit it. That's a good note there. Again, doing 1,000 things. Shouts to Morrison crying. I know he likes to watch every single live show during the tournament. We appreciate you and your support, man. Let's